Try to put yourself this morning along with the apostles as they're having this discussion with Jesus. And ask yourself, what way might you react to the words that he's sharing with us today? He's asking us a question. Do you think I have come to establish peace on the earth? I'm sure that the apostles, I'm pretty sure all of us, would certainly answer that question to Jesus immediately, saying, yes, you are the Prince of Peace. You were announced by the angels to be bringing peace. You spoke of peace in your ministry. You talked of reconciliation. You talked of bringing good news to the poor. Yeah, obviously you came to bring peace. But the interesting thing about this gospel is that Jesus didn't wait for the response. Immediately, Jesus answers the question to them in a very shocking way. Jesus said, no, I tell you, I've come rather for division. Wow. That doesn't sound like Jesus. That doesn't sound like the message that we're accustomed to hear from Jesus. Didn't Jesus come to bring peace? Certainly he did. Then we might ask ourselves, how do we understand then these confusing words? Because they're the words of Jesus. I'm not making them up. They're the words that are portrayed by Luke in his gospel. And I think it might help to understand those words if we look at it from this perspective. That the words Jesus are speaking about division is more descriptive than decreeing. He's describing, which I don't think there's any question, that when we don't follow the teachings of Jesus, when we're afraid to put into practice the teachings of Jesus, divisions happen. Look at our world. It's divided in so many ways. Domestically, internationally, nationally, there's constant division. And a lot of that has to do with the fact that the values that Jesus has taught us, those simple values, respect for human life, those simple values of kindness and goodness, charity, that they're not being observed. And that sometimes if we even try to dare to ask people to live those values, people will fight with us. No, that's political, or that's this, or that's that. And so what Jesus is asking today, or telling us, is that he's being descriptive. He's not wanting that there be division on earth. He's just saying it's going to happen. It's going to happen if we don't follow him, or if we fail to follow his teachings. When we try to follow Jesus faithfully, getting peace is not always peaceful. True peace is more the absence of violence and hostility. It is built on goodness and justice. And it might help to illustrate this point by thinking a bit about the differences between keeping the peace and serving the peace. Keeping the peace is sort of, I'm not going to say anything. I don't want to get anybody riled up. So I'm going to ignore a lot of stuff. I'm not going to speak up for my values because that might upset so-and-so. And so we tend to keep the peace, and we put all of the things under the carpet, or we fail to see the elephant in the house, and we go through all of those kinds of things. We're just not sure. And so let's just keep the peace. That's kind of nice, but sometimes that's not helpful nor healthy in our Christian living. If we make the keeping of peace our highest priority, we'll never allow ourselves to upset or disturb anyone. And sometimes we need to. If we make this our greatest priority, we'll never permit ourselves to say to a particular relationship that it is abusive or dangerous. We just keep quiet about it. Or we need the time, with peace is a priority. If it's our priority, we will never have the courage to confront a family member or friend about their abuse, maybe of alcohol or drugs, waste of money, or speak about verbal abuse or racial discrimination in the workplace. Sometimes keeping the peace, just, well, let it happen. I don't want them to get mad at me. And Jesus answers that in a very special way. Jesus wants us to help pass the faith on. And he uses that beautiful image today of fire. That fire, as we think about it, it can do several things. It can heat. Hope the roof stays, okay? It can give us light, or even fire can be destructive, or it can be purifying. And so when Jesus talks about fire today, he's really talking about purification. He's talking about light. He's saying that his message will bring light into the world, that his message should be available to destroy those false values that are a part of our world today. And it is through baptism that we were given that light, that we are invited to that campaign to bring peace to our world, to bring values back to our world. The fire of faith and conviction gives our life energy and direction and definition. And so we are not called to keep peace. We are called to serve the peace. We might be called to serve the peace by just courageous good example. Standing up for our values, not backing down because somebody's a louder voice than we might be. That we show our example in the way we live every day, that we do follow these values of Jesus. That we're not afraid to speak those and take on some ridicule. Because when we continually stand for our faith and stand strong for our faith, that fire begins to purify and it begins to change hearts. And so let the fire of our faith in Christ, our convictions about gospel truth, clarify our life and light the way to others. Our efforts to be people of courage, to be people who profess our faith, that in a sense we're doing what the Lord has asked us. And some may say we're playing with fire. But when we light a fire to destroy the forces opposed to God's kingdom, Jesus would stand by and say, let it burn. Let my values burn. Let my values change our world. And so let us be courageous in carrying that fire of Jesus and not just be those who keep the peace, but rather become instruments of peace in our world.